Listo. Un segundo. ¿Listo? Good morning, everyone. This is Diego Quitiana speaking. Can you please let me know if you can hear me well? Sorry for the delay, but we had some technical problems. You know that sometimes technology doesn't work the way that we expect, but I think that we have some people already connected. So please let me know if you can hear me well. Can you? All right, so we have Angelica Moreno from Antonio Van Wooden School. Good morning, Angelica. Thank you for joining us. We have like more and more people connected. All right. Okay, perfect. So you can listen to me. That's good. Sorry for the delay again. We're gonna wait for more people to start connecting. Well, first of all, to welcome you all on behalf of the Science, Technology and Media Department at the Secretary of Education and the Plan Distrital de Segunda Lengua, Second District Plan team wants to say welcome you all again to this series of workshops that we have been carried out as part of the Aprende en Casa or Learn at Home strategy. And we hope that all this material that we have been sharing with you, all these ideas, all these activities have been useful. And I would like to start with that question. I would like to start asking you about how are you implementing all these material, all these strategies that we have shared with you these days. So let me know in what ways has it worked? How are you dealing with your schools? We know that this is like a very difficult task, but hopefully all this material has been useful. Have you already shared the lists of material with of the third district spelling bee with your students? So please, on the comments below, start letting us know about how this strategy has been useful. The third district spelling bee strategy has been useful for you to work with your students during this lockout and this quarantine. All right, so we have more people connecting. So we have Colegio Ciudad de Bogotá, Aida. Hello, Aida. Thank you for joining us. Maribel Parra from San Rafael School. Patricia Sanchez from Instituto Técnico Industrial. Lilia from Ciudadela Educativa de Bosa. Welcome. Thank you for joining us. Andrea Maldonado from Marsella School. Oh, yes, I know that school. Thank you for joining us. We have 21 Angeles School. So, Helen. Hello, Helen. Thank you for joining us. Ginette Paez from Antonio Van Uden School. Jaime Pardo Real. Cindy Alicet Guatavita. Thank you for joining us, Cindy. Maida from Provincia de Quebec. Thank you for joining us again, people, and being with us. Good morning, Jaime Pardo Real. We have Ana Maria Niño, Gran Colombiano. Thank you for being with us again. Carolina Bonilla from Colegio Kennedy. We have Edwin Alberto from John F. Kennedy School. Thank you for being with us. Hello, Deborah Arango Perez, Laura, Jeanette. Thank you for being with us today. We have been to that school as well in different occasions. La Belleza Los Libertadores. Thank you. Thank you for joining us again today. Sorry, we are like fixing the technical problems. Don't worry, they're going to be solved in a minute. Liceo Nacional Antonia Santos, we have that school as well. Liceo Femenino Mercedes Nariño, thank you for being with us. Ingrid from Antonio Van Buden, thank you for being with us today. Okay, so as I was saying before, Filarmónico Simón Bolívar. Hello, Marta. Last year we had the orchestra from that school, and the last day of the spelling bee. You guys did a great job. Thank you for being with us that day. It was amazing. Everyone was like really happy and really impressed by the talent that your students have. So thank you. We have Miguel Antonio Caro. Okay. All right, people. So sorry about the inconveniences and sorry about like the delay. We had some technical issues, but okay, we're gonna start right now so that we don't take that long. And for today, as I was saying before, I would like you to start commenting below about the way that these strategies have been useful for you and how or the way in which you have been implementing them with your students, the lists, the word lists, and the rules and the material, the worksheets that we have shared with you through Red Academica. Remember that my partners, Luisa Martinez, Marta Galvez, Daniela, they are going to be interacting with you on the comments below. And remember that they will also share the link where you can find the material, the websites, and the drive that we created for you to download material. All right. So what we're going to do to start today? So remember that a good strategy for you to interact with your students every time that you start a new session online or even a class, whenever we start again having face-to-face classes, it is having an assessment of what we did in the previous session. All right. So remember that in the previous sessions we have been talking about the strategies for practicing pronunciation, for practicing vocabulary, and the last one, specifically speaking, it was about the way in which, or the strategies that we can implement to have our students learn vocabulary, how we can integrate the third district spelling bee word lists and rules with their learning process to make it more meaningful. All right. So we have these 3 questions for you about last session, and the first one is: what activities can be implemented to learn and practice vocabulary in English? So please start commenting below, like what strategies do you remember that we mentioned in the previous class, in the previous session, and which ones maybe you have been implementing that have been useful for you. Remember that all this material is like for you to use the word lists of the spelling bee and how to integrate your lessons with what you're doing. All right. Second question. We have, how can we integrate the third district spelling bee word lists to practice vocabulary? All right. So please start letting us know about the way in which you have integrated the word lists with the vocabulary practice of your students. All right. And finally, we have true or false and why. All right. So here we have a statement about about the last session, and it says the word goodbye originally comes from the Old English phrase meaning God save the Queen. All right? So please let us know if you think this is true or false. Remember that last session we mentioned the origin of the word goodbye and how English and languages in general transform throughout the years. All right? So please let us know if this is true or false. All right? Good people. So please start commenting. And remember that the topic that brings us today here is let's talk in English through conversation clubs. All right, and we're gonna be talking about, or we wanted to propose this topic to you because we know that probably having our students speak in class or in other different environments is not easy, right? I think that this is like the main obstacle that we have as teachers. We are always wondering how we can have our students speak more in class, and sometimes it's like very difficult um, to find different um, strategies or activities that can promote speaking in English in class and outside the classroom as well. So we wanted to show you the importance of speaking and the speaking through conversation, right? So for that, we're gonna be mentioning like some of the most important aspects about having your students speaking, having conversations in class, or having a conversation club, as I was mentioning before. That is the topic that brings us today here. All right. So the first one is conversation is one of the most important skills you can equip your students with. Moreover, your students will actually enjoy a well-developed communication class. So having your students speak, have a conversation will be very meaningful for them because they are going to enjoy more a communication environment. And remember that we're teachers of English. We're teaching a language. So if they know how to write, if they know how to they know some words, but they don't know how to use them in a conversation, they are not going to, that there is no purpose for them. All right. So it's very important that you develop your classes taking into account that there must be a space for students to practice speaking. All right. So revising different documents from different book houses like Cambridge, like Oxford, well, this is like the recommendation that they gave us, no, that in a class we should have at least like 30% or 35% of speaking in our class. All right. So that is our invitation for you to start promoting more speaking in your lessons, and why not through a conversation club as well. Conversation is the tool that will take your students out of textbooks and notebooks, letting them build English language confidence in a more natural way. So remember that last class we were mentioning different aspects about how knowing the right pronunciation, how knowing more words will make communication more easy for our students, and how this is going to make them more confident. They will feel like, okay, now I can communicate because I'm equipped with all these vocabulary, with all this pronunciation, but besides all that, I know how to interact with people in a social situation, in a social real situation. All right. So confidence, and the spelling bee is one of those strategies that let us grow confidence in our students. All right. Next, students need to learn communication skills in order to fulfill their ambitions, desires, and goals. Okay. So remember, in this case, it's important that students know how to communicate, because in this way they can talk about their personal experiences, they can talk about their lives, they can talk about their ambitions, their desires, their goals, what they want to do in the future, right? So this is like knowing or having all these communication skills through conversation will let us know more about our students. No, we will know more about our students' lives, about how they feel, about what they want to share with us. All right. And as I was saying before, if students learn grammar, vocabulary, and its pronunciation, but they don't have the chance to use it in a contextualized environment, they will see no purpose in learning the language and will never feel confident. All right. So remember that the only way to have our students speak in is to have like speaking activities in our lessons, but that they are contextualized, that they are according to what we're teaching them in our curriculum, and also like the way in which they can interact, how they can create conversations. Last session we were talking about role plays and how we can teach not only vocabulary or specific words, but also how we can teach them different expressions in English as well through conversations. All right. So remember, it's very important that we invest a significant time of our class or our if we have like different projects in our at our schools, so that we let and have the opportunity for our students to speak. All right. And today we're going to talk about one of the ways in which this can happen, and this is like the conversation clubs, right? How conversation clubs are an opportunity for our students to practice speaking, all right, in a more relaxed environment, so they don't feel like embarrassed talking in front of other people. Okay, so we're gonna start talking about what conversation clubs are, and we know that, well, we're facing a very difficult situation these days. We are talking about or we know that these conditions that we're facing these days are difficult, but what about having a conversation club for your students to practice English in a more relaxed way? I've been listening to teachers or teachers who share their experiences, and sometimes, I mean, both students and teachers are overwhelmed with the amount of lessons that they have to take online, or the amount of material that they are being shared. So what about having a conversation club? What about not having a regular class, but telling them, okay, this next class or this next Friday, we will have a conversation club so that we can practice English, and we're gonna do it in a different environment, and you're gonna be able to give your points of view, to let us know about your life, and not only having like regular lessons, no? So that is our invitation. So conversation clubs are a space for students to develop their speaking skills in an extracurricular environment. So we can, in a normal situation, conversation clubs happen one day of the week at school, and then students gather together, those students who are interested in speaking, and then you bring topics and etc. It doesn't mean that, I mean, the idea is that you have it as a part of an extracurricular environment, but it doesn't mean that you cannot integrate the conversation club with what you're teaching them or what they are learning as part of the curriculum. All right. So our ideas with this is like having a conversation club in an extracurricular environment means that students don't have the conception of the conversation club as a regular class. All right. So the next one is interact with others and feel more confident when using English. This is one of the benefits of having a conversation club or bringing conversation activities to your lessons. So what about the way that they feel interacting, meeting new people? Remember that you can have conversation clubs with students from different levels, from different grades. So the idea is that they get to know other people, new students, they can make new friends. So a conversation club is also a way to have our students develop their social skills, all right? So this is like a way in which a conversation club could be beneficial for your students. Then we have talk about topics they find interesting, all right? So here we have, remember that conversation clubs are a space for your students to talk about something that they find interesting, all right? That they say like, oh, okay, if the teacher is, or if there is this space on Fridays on Zoom or on Teams or any platform, Skype, whatever platform you're using, and what about motivating them with those interesting topics that they can talk about in your conversation club? So this is a space for students to talk about things that probably they don't usually talk, all right, in a class, in a regular class, or topics that you can ask your students to bring ideas as well. And use what they have learned in a communicative context, okay? So they learn many things in a class. They have been taking classes for a long time. And imagine a student that has a lot of information in his or her mind, and they don't have the space to use all that this student has learned. Sometimes we know that there are students that are really good at English, that they really like English, but they feel frustrated because they cannot communicate with others, or they cannot use everything that they have learned in another environment. All right, so let's do it. Let's try to have those spaces for students, and our invitation is for you to realize about how a conversation club could bring like a different environment for your students under this lockout, and with everything that is happening. All right, now we're going to talk about the way or how you can implement a conversation club. We know that this usually happens at a regular environment at school, but we know that it doesn't mean that it cannot happen these days that we are facing this difficult situation. So how can you start implementing the spelling bee? How can you let your students know? What about if you have a web page from your school, or a Facebook fan page from your school? What about posting a sign? How about, or through the platforms that you're using for your lessons like Zoom, Teams, Skype, etc.? How about letting your students know about this space? Maybe you can talk with other English teachers and say, okay, maybe this Friday you're going to be in charge of the conversation club, then next Friday another teacher is going to be in charge, so that they find another space to practice. And our idea for you is or our advice is for you to start like maybe creating a sign, or post a sign, and share an invitation through this social media that we're using these days, right? So that your students can start joining. All right. What about inviting a fluent English speaker, or one or two native speakers, if possible, to your conversation club? Maybe, well, we know that there are different websites, or especially on Facebook, like groups of foreigners that are here in Colombia and they are willing to support or volunteer in different activities. What about inviting native speakers to conduct the conversation club, or that they can interact with students, so that they don't say like, oh, okay, it's my teacher having the conversation club, but no, this time I'm going to talk about I'm going to talk to a girl that is from New Zealand or Ireland or the States or Asia or Africa, about culture, about movies, about music, about these different topics that you can share with your students. All right, so start like looking for native speakers or people who are fluent in English or very fluent in English, so that they don't feel that this is a teacher. Or maybe you can have different teachers. No, if you're teaching 10 and 11th grade, maybe you can have the conversation club with the students from 6th, 7th, and 8th grades, right? So that is an idea in which you can have this in a different way. Remember that it's important to set some rules for your conversation clubs, okay? And the rules are for before, during, and after the conversation club. So remember that you can establish a set of rules for your students, and you can say like, okay, for this conversation club you have to prepare this vocabulary, or you have to prepare this topic in advance, and then you will interact with other people. Or you can say, okay, you're not going to be allowed to use Spanish. You are going to be allowed to speak only when the person conducting the the conversation club allows you to do it. So that's like a important before they start, that they know how the conversation club works. During and after, what about assigning them something after the conversation club, or something that they can prepare the next for the next session? All right, so start having those rules, for example, like English only, speak, being tolerant, etc. So remember that we might have students with different levels in our conversation club, and sometimes students might feel like, oh, this person speaks really fluent, and I cannot speak that fast, or they can be frustrated. But then the idea is that they are tolerant and they support each other and help each other. All right. How often? So remember that conversation club, or the recommendation that all the papers related to this topic give us, is that we do it once a week. Okay, that they last a maximum of 2 hours, right? I think that 2 hours is like a lot of time, but the recommendation, according to important researchers, is that we have maximum 2 hours. So longer than that, it wouldn't be meaningful. But you are the ones like that establish this time. And the most convenient, you have to take into account the most convenient time of the day for you and your students, right? So remember that some students are taking class at a specific time, or they are busy, or they have other activities. So what about like saying, okay, maybe a day in which we know that students are going to be more like willing to connect, for example, on a Friday afternoon, or maybe from Wednesday through Friday. I think that would be like the most reasonable moment to have a conversation club. Maybe on Monday, Tuesday, they are not like willing to have these kind of activities, but maybe on Fridays they feel more like speaking, they feel more like giving their ideas. All right. And finally, you could use platforms. So remember that we could use platforms like Zoom or Teams to develop your conversation club sessions. Some teachers are using Skype, some teachers are using Facebook Lives, some teachers are using different strategies. So what about bringing those platforms as part of the conversation club and the way to interact with your students? What about WhatsApp, for example? Uh, I teach lessons as well, and these days have been difficult for me because we do it mainly on Zoom, and sometimes it's difficult to have all your students interacting, or to have all your students participating and practice speaking, or so what I do is that I have some students participate, but for those who don't have the chance to do it, I asked them to share or to record a video in which they let us know about their points of view, or their answering some specific questions, and then they have the chance to practice speaking. If they don't want to record themselves using videos, maybe they can only record their voices through an audio, right? So that could be another strategy as well. All right. So people, how? So other important thing is choose topics of a student's interest. For example, movies, music, sports, social media, TV series, health, and among others. So remember that topics for conversation clubs should be like appealing to them, all right, so that they feel like talking. And you can talk about what's happening right now, so that they talk about the way they feel, how they're dealing with all this coronavirus thing, and this lockout, and being at home every day and not having the chance to talk to the partners, or doing the normal activities that they were used to do. All right. So remember to have vocabulary, expressions, and grammar structures according to their level and the institutional curriculum as well. So you can ask, for example, if the conversation club is going to be for 6th, 7th, and 8th graders, what about checking the curriculum, the contents that they have been working on with their teachers, so that they bring that knowledge to the conversation club, so that they don't feel lost, but that they feel like, okay, I'm talking about this topic, and I'm familiar with this topic because in class we practice this and this and this. So every time that you have a conversation club, well, this is an open space, but also take into account what your students can do, because sometimes we bring very difficult topics to them, and then they are lost because they cannot interact with others. All right. What about using conversation models and expressions that develop your students' social interaction skills? So be careful with the like what you're teaching them in a conversation club, because or when you're what you're sharing with them, because sometimes we forget about that communication in a real environment involves having idiomatic expressions, or expressions that we commonly use when we talk about certain topics, the way that we show reactions, the way that we, for example, develop social skills. All right. So how about, for example, eye contact? When teaching our students that a good social skill would be to look at the eyes of the person you're talking to show that you're paying attention, and also to ask follow-up questions. So that if someone is saying, like, my favorite TV series is Dark, for example, you don't say like, yes. No, but that your student can develop reactions that can say, "Oh, great! I love that TV series too," or "Tell me more about this TV series," or "I haven't watched it." So expressions that are going to help them develop different social skills that we usually don't know. yes, or that we know or we do it in our own language, but that when we're speaking in another language, we get nervous and we forget about these social skills. All right, so this is our invitation. um, so what about bringing that to your students? Remember that you can have students could speak in person or in front of the class. So as I was telling you, if you have Zoom or if you have Skype or if you're using other tools, you could ask your students about certain topics, and then they can start sharing their audios, or they can record a video and edit the video and then share it with you. Danny, you're saying that what about people who don't have access to smart devices to improve their skills or the language skills these days? So remember that on Red Academica we have shared a set of worksheets for you to use them with your students. So for those who don't have access to internet, what about sharing a PowerPoint presentation, or this PowerPoint presentation that we're going to share with you in a moment about a conversation club example, and then your students can like start using them, and maybe they can record what they say on WhatsApp and they send it to you. All right, or they can just practice speaking on their own, and you can assign them a set of questions, and then they can like develop their skills these days. No, they can talk on the phone with other students that don't have access to the internet either. So this is like the strategies that we could use. Well, we have talked about like the logistics, like the way that involves having a conversation club, and now we're gonna share with you the a conversation club example, right? So we're gonna share with you an example, and we're gonna share with you these slides and these PowerPoint so that you can implement it with your students. So let's have like a topic for your conversation club. So one topic could be lifestyle, no? And we can ask our students about what they know about lifestyle, or what does this word refer to, what possible meanings it has, and when do we use it? When do we use lifestyle? So people start letting us know what you think about lifestyle is, and why is this an interesting topic these days. All right, because well, we have like many changes in our lifestyles these days. No, the our lives changed in a very significant way. So please, this could be a topic that would give the opportunity for your students to like interact and talk about what they are living these days. All right, and more specifically, what about um, having, for example, habits, and what they're doing these days, and if what they are doing these days is healthy or unhealthy. All right, so a way in which you can start your conversation club with them could be like asking them about what they see in the pictures, what objects they see, what food they see. So you can start saying like, okay, uh, what do you see in the first picture in that or what do you see in the picture that represents a healthy person? So they can start like brainstorming vocabulary that maybe they already know, and they can activate the their background knowledge, and they could start like saying like, okay, I feel more confident because I know some words. I know the word apple, I know the word grapes, I know the word thin. They can describe the characters that they see in the pictures. All right, for example, in the case of the unhealthy, what do you see? Ah, okay, we see a pizza, we see a man drinking a beer, maybe he's not in a good physical condition. If students have seen the way describing people's physical appearance, then you can like take advantage of that. All right. So what about having, for example, this topic and asking them, okay, what do you think? Are you a healthy person? Are you an unhealthy person? Do you look more like the woman in the first picture, or do you look more like the man in this picture these days? All right. So this is a way to introduce or to start like the topic, having a warm-up activity in which students brainstorm vocabulary and they brainstorm about what they know about being healthy and unhealthy. All right. Remember that we mentioned in previous lessons strategies for learning vocabulary, and one of them is grouping, for example. So what about having an activity as part of that warm-up in which you ask them about vocabulary they know about healthy and unhealthy habits? All right? You can ask them to brainstorm, you can ask them to activate the previous knowledge, and then you present some input for them so that they can be more confident while speaking to others. All right. Probably some students say like, no, teacher, I don't know a lot of words about this topic about being healthy or unhealthy, so that you present them in a nice way, in a visual way. What about, for example, using GIFs? All right. Remember that you can Google, like, for example, practicing sport GIF, and then you have images that are in motion that you can take advantage of when presenting vocabulary to your students. So you can also practice pronunciation. How about having drilling activities in which they repeat and they have the visual image of the word, and they then just start practicing the pronunciation with them. So here you have practice sport, for example. Then we have eating or eat junk food, right? And then you start getting them familiar with different vocabulary that they probably don't know. So they are going to be like, junk food, what's that? And then you can ask them to describe the pictures, right? So you can ask them like, okay, what do you see in the picture? Okay, this is Homer Simpson, and what food is he eating? So he's eating chips, or potato chips, or he's eating like popcorn, so that they can start like activating the previous knowledge as well. And this is something that is familiar to their regular lives. You can ask them if they are similar to Homer, if they're using, if they're eating same things that Homer is eating. All right. Watch TV for hours. Okay, we know that these days students are like with a lot of free time in most of the cases. So most of them are watching TV, how much time they are spending. So you can ask them about these topics as well. You can talk about eat fruit and vegetables. So are they eating healthy? Aren't they eating healthy? We know that some students are having trouble with food, with going to the supermarket or to getting food at home. So how you can activate also that topic and ask them if they are eating properly, if they know where they can pick their monthly food that is distributed at schools and etc. So you can talk about these topics as well. For example, drink a lot of water. So this is healthy. How often do you do it? These days that we are not doing a lot of exercise at home, or maybe they are doing it, how much water are they drinking, why is it healthy? So you can start activating like this previous knowledge as well. Going to bed late, right? Go to bed late is also an activity that these days students are very likely to do, no? So students go to bed, or we sometimes go to bed very late at night because our schedule changed, and then we're watching movies until very late, or we're doing a lot of homework, or you teachers are planning and spending a lot of time planning your lessons. So this could be like a good topic to talk to them about. Eat lots of candy, for example. So you can ask them about, for example, this movie that is very famous among young learners, that is like the Minions and all these characters that they already know. So you can bring images that are familiar to them, and ask them about if they are eating a lot of candy, if they, because they are not going to school or going to the supermarket on a regular basis, if they are eating in a better way, all right? A topic that is very asked these days. Now, how often are you washing your hands? So, are you washing your hands regularly? You know that this is one of the ways in which you can avoid getting coronavirus or being infected. So, you can ask your students, and remember that teaching vocabulary is not only teaching isolated words, but teaching phrases and teaching like different expressions that they might know. All right, so you can have this as part of, as I was saying before, a grouping vocabulary activity. You can ask your students to warm up, like telling you what of these vocabulary and phrases that they have just learned are related to healthy habits and which ones are related to unhealthy habits, and then you can have an activity in which they activate and they go to or they start doing it in their notebooks, or they can, if you're having them like in the conversation club in a different way, so they can send you pictures of the grouping that they did. So you can have like different activities to activate that previous knowledge. All right, and then once they have like acquired some different vocabulary and words and phrases, you can bring the topic. No, you can ask some questions about their opinions, about their experiences of what they have done, or what they are doing these days during this lockout and this coronavirus emergency. All right, so here you have some questions that you could discuss in your conversation club with them. For example, has your lifestyle been healthy or unhealthy during the lockout? Do you think practicing a sport or doing exercise is a good way to be in good mental and physical condition these days? How late are you going to bed? How often are you washing your hands to avoid COVID-19 virus? And how much time are you spending in front of the TV? These could be some possible questions, and you can ask them, as I was saying before, to interact through Zoom or through the platforms that you're using, but you can also ask them to answer these questions on an audio on WhatsApp, right? So that they have the opportunity to speak. If you can start a WhatsApp group for the conversation club, and you say, okay, you're gonna register to this WhatsApp group. Then I'm gonna show you the pictures of the slides and the activities, and then I'm going to send you audios to explain you the instructions and what you have to do, and then you're gonna reply with your own audios expressing your opinions about this topic. All right, so teaching them expressions like or questions like how about you. So probably they can record an audio like I think that having a good lifestyle or being healthy these days is really important these days, because we are going to avoid getting the virus, or we are going to avoid getting infected with this virus. So they finish their audio saying, how about you? And they can nominate another person in the conversation club to answer the question. For example, you can say, how about you, Gloria? Gloria that is watching us through the Facebook Live. Or how about Clara? Or how about Danny? Right? So in that case, once they get to know each other through the conversation club, you can start asking them about nominating other people to reply to your answers, all right, or to ask other people as well. You can also teach them expressions, all right, through a conversation club. You can ask them, like, for example, to show reactions so that they are developing social skills. You can tell them, like, okay, what about What about having expressions like "that's too bad" or "awesome" to react to an answer, right? So this is like a way in which they can get phrases that are commonly used in daily conversations. So if they say like, no, I'm not doing any exercise these days, so they can show their reaction. They can say like, oh, that's too bad. All right. Or if the person says like, oh, I'm eating very healthy, I'm eating a lot of fruit, or I'm eating a lot of cereal, or these kind of products. So the other students can show reactions like awesome, right? So this could be a way in which students can start feeling more confident when speaking in front of other people, or speaking to their partners or teachers or native speakers, or when they travel in the future. All right. So this is like our invitation to involve vocabulary in input in a conversation club, to do it in a meaningful way. Remember that you can ask your students to prepare the vocabulary in advance before getting to the conversation club. You can ask them to prepare their answers to these questions before coming to the conversation club. You can teach them or share with them some expressions that show positive or negative reactions when someone is speaking, right? So what our invitation is for you to do that. All right. So remember that we're gonna share this conversation club example with you, and our invitation is for you to do it, to use it with your students. So this is an appealing topic. You can start sharing with us if you happen to have conversation clubs created and you want to share those ideas and those that material with us. Please let us know. Remember that you can contact us here in Red Academica. You can also contact us to our email addresses, so that students are going to get more, and teachers are going to get more material, taking into account that these days it's been difficult because we are like planning, having virtual classes, sending material to our students. So the more material we gather, the more meaningful the process is going to be, and the easier this is going to be for you, teachers. And so our invitation is for you to share that material with us. Remember that we created a drive for the spelling bee. So please share the material that you have with us, so that other teachers can make use of that. And um, and remember that all this is integrated to what we proposed, or what we started implementing in the word lists of the spelling bee as well. So remember that we included expressions in English that students are learning. So you can take those expressions and then start bringing them to conversation clubs as well. All right. You can remember that, for example, the topic of health is also part of what the English suggested curriculum for for secondary school has as part of the contents. So bring topics that are related to what the students are learning these days, so that they have the chance to practice what they have learned. All right. So, teacher, these are some of the conclusions that we could like get to. Students will feel more confident next time they speak in public. So remember that conversation clubs are going to be helpful for them to grow confidence while speaking in front of others. They're using what they have learned in a communicative situation. So sometimes they have a lot of information, remember, and then they don't know how to use it, when to use it, how to use it in a normal conversation or in a real conversation. So this is our invitation to start having more conversation activities and having a conversation club for your students to start practicing more and using all that they have learned. Having appealing topics will make your students feel more like talking. So it's the same for us. If we bring an appealing topic to a workshop, then teachers are going to be more likely to speak. If you bring interesting topics or topics that students are familiar with, then they are going to start speaking more, because sometimes we are teaching and then we say, like, no, but students don't want to talk about health. Okay, but how am I presenting that topic? Am I just following a book? Am I just bringing a photocopy and asking them to read and then answer some questions? How am I presenting that topic to them? So a conversation club can give many ideas for you to do it. And students will be more participative in regular lessons. So if you start promoting conversation among your students, then next time that you ask a question to your students in a regular lesson, they will feel more confident to speak in front of others, and they will feel like, okay, I want to speak, I want to give my point of view because I know how to do it in English. In the conversation club, I have learned expressions to introduce my opinion, to show agreement, to show disagreement. All right, so this is like another invitation for you teachers to start using. Remember that we are here to support you in case that you have any questions, in case that you need ideas, in case that you don't know exactly what to do, where to find this material. All right, so that being said, that would be all for today. We want to thank you again. We want to remind you that, we're going to share with you a link for you to share your information with us. We want to know about people who have been following us these workshops. So if you're a student, if you are a person that belongs to a different institution, if you are a teacher, so my partners on the comments below, they will share with you a link where we invite you to let us know about your information so that we can be in touch with you, and we also know who are you, and what institution you represent, and if you don't belong to any school but you are a person from a different institution that is willing to bring some ideas, or if you're a parent, if you are maybe the cousin of a student that is studying at a public school and then share this material with you. So please let us know. We would like to know more about you. Don't forget that we already uploaded the word lists audios for all the categories. All right. So remember that you will find the audios on Red Academica. There is a link. My partners, I think that they already showed you the link where you can find the material, the websites, but also the word lists and their audios. All right. So remember that we recorded those audios for you so that your students can get them, and the process can be easier for them to learn the words and the process of spelling as well. So don't forget that in Red Academica we also have the Entre Profes strategy. If you're doing something very meaningful with your students, you want to share what you're doing, please share that information with us. Remember that Red Academica is like the channel of communication that we're having these days. Remember that you can find a lot of material, a lot of workshops related to different topics. And last session we had the teacher Norma, that was what we had some technical problems as well last time, but she was sharing what she's doing with videos and using TikTok with her students and their parents. So please let us know. The more information we get from you, the better is going to be for everyone. Remember that we're here to support each other on this difficult situation, and that if this continues, it would be like much better if we have all this material. And remember that the form to register to the spelling bee is gonna be activated after June the 1st. All right, so it is not activated yet. So please wait until June the 1st. Remember that all this situation that we're going on, we don't know if how the spelling bee is going to happen. We have to wait until everything gets normalized. So on June the 1st, we will let you know about the registration and about the way in which you can start letting us know about how the spelling bee is happening. Also, let us know if you already started. Let us know if, okay, I already shared the material with my students. I already started working with them online, or they are sending them the audios, or I already implemented the word lists of the 3rd district spelling bee with my students. How are you doing it? Let us know. Let us know. Danny, you're asking about television or radio sources that help students at home about English learning. Yes, there are on the radio. We're gonna start our radio program on Colmundo Radio. I think that on Red Academica you will also find the information for those students who don't have access. On TV, I think that we don't have English material yet, but I know that, for example, TV channels like Telecafe or Teleantioquia have some TV programs in English for students in the morning shift. They have, I think that from 8 to 10 a.m., sometimes they start at 9. I think there is a teacher who's having lessons as well. So you can start exploring TV channels as well. Remember that you have a lot of material on YouTube as well, and if your students don't have access to internet, you can also download those videos and share with them the videos on a Google Drive or on WhatsApp. So there are many tools that we could also use. Angelica Moreno is telling us that B1 Challenge is other great tool. Remember, teachers, that the Ministry of Education released an app named B1 Challenge that students can download from their Play stores or on their cell phones as an app. They can download this app, and this is connected. And this is connected to what they are doing on the curriculum, on the suggested curriculum as well. This is a very nice tool that you could also ask your students to download. Gloria says, we're looking for material to practice for the spelling bee, but it is difficult during this lockout. Yes, I know it's difficult. Well, we have to be very patient and then find ways to keep in touch with our students, maybe on emails or other ways or means of communication. Well, we have many people saying thank you, Nubia, Fanny. We have Jasmine, Sandra, Maria Gomez, thank you for joining us. Dani Diaz, Gloria Esperanza, thank you very much for being with us today. Remember that this PowerPoint presentation will be uploaded to the link that you find on Red Academica. So people, thank you very much for being with us today. Sorry about the delay because we had technical problems, but hopefully we will let you know about our next workshop soon. All right? So thank you very much for being with us today. See you soon. And please don't forget to keep in touch with us through an email and let us know about what you're doing and how you're dealing with this situation. problems about downloading sound of category A. I think that the problem has been already fixed. If not, please let us know about an email. Caroline, thank you for joining us. Danny, thank you. Angelica Moreno, thank you very much. Good. Thank you very much, people. See you and have a really nice day. All right. See you soon, people. Thank you very much for being with us again. Bye bye.